The Nancy Guthrie case just got way worse as the FBI turns on the sheriff. The homicide inexperience. The most staggering mistake in this entire investigation wasn't made by the kidnappers, but by the people supposedly in charge of finding Nancy. It has now come to light that the lead investigator and the initial responding supervisor on the scene had exactly zero homicide or high-stakes abduction experience. When you have a tactical breach of a home and an 84-year-old woman vanishes, you don't send in the B team to learn on the job. Yet that is exactly what happened in Pima County. This lack of expertise explains why the first 48 hours, the most critical window for any recovery, were treated like a standard missing persons case rather than a violent felony. Because the leadership didn't have the forensic eyes to see the gravity of the situation, basic protocols were likely skipped and the crime scene was left vulnerable. The FBI is reportedly losing patience because they are now forced to clean up a mess that was created by basic administrative incompetence. You have 70 federal agents ready to deploy, but they are being throttled by a local chain of command that didn't even know how to properly secure a perimeter on day one. The search for Nancy was handicapped from the start by sheer professional inexperience. The corrupted front lawn. Dr. Richard Carmona has not held back on what he witnessed at the Guthrie home, and frankly, it is enough to make any professional investigator's blood boil. We're talking about a primary crime scene, the very spot where Nancy was forced out of her life, being treated like a public sidewalk. Carmona pointed out a specific mind-blowing lapse where a pizza delivery driver was actually allowed to wander right through the cordoned-off front lawn while deputies just stood there and watched. In any real investigation, that ground is sacred. It holds the trail shoe prints, microscopic fibers, and DNA that could identify the suspects. By letting a random civilian trample through the grass, the department basically invited a forensic nightmare. It's not just about one guy's footprints, it's about the sheer lack of discipline. If a delivery driver can waltz through that tape, what else was missed? This level of contamination is exactly why the FBI is stepping in with such a heavy hand. They are looking at a scene that was effectively scrubbed of its best evidence by pure local negligence. It's a total failure of scene integrity 101, and at this point, the damage might be permanent. A crime scene isn't a suggestion, but the deputies treated it like one. The Board of Supervisors strike. The political floor has finally dropped out from under Sheriff Nanos. In a move that signals a total breakdown of trust, the Pima County Board of Supervisors recently voted unanimously to launch a formal investigation into the sheriff's conduct. Let's be clear. A unanimous vote like this in the middle of a high-profile kidnapping is essentially a public vote of no confidence. The supervisors aren't just looking at the Guthrie case, they are looking at a pattern of management that has left the department in a state of internal war. When the people who control your budget and oversight decide they can no longer trust your leadership, while a vulnerable 84-year-old woman is still missing, the situation has moved past a simple disagreement. It is a full-blown institutional collapse. This investigation is going to dig into the reported harassment of political rivals and the refusal to cooperate with federal partners. For the Guthrie family, this is the worst-case scenario. The man in charge of the search is now fighting for his professional life in a boardroom instead of leading his deputies in the field. The focus has shifted from finding Nancy to surviving a political firestorm. The people in power have officially stopped believing the sheriff's version of events. The force multiplier rejection. It has been 72 days since Nancy Guthrie vanished, and the most infuriating part of this timeline is that the FBI had 70 elite agents on the ground with almost nothing to do. In any other jurisdiction, 70 federal agents would be viewed as a godsend, a massive force multiplier that brings in millions of dollars in tech, man-hours, and specialized intelligence. But according to internal reports, Sheriff Nanos is keeping them at arm's length, essentially treating the world's premier investigative agency like uninvited guests. This isn't just a difference in strategy. It is an ego over evidence problem that is actively stalling the search. When you refuse to fully integrate federal resources because you want to maintain a local win, you aren't protecting your department. You're gambling with a victim's life. The FBI has tools for satellite tracking and advanced behavioral analysis that local PDs just simply don't possess. Yet these tools are sitting idle in a parking lot while the trail goes cold. Every day that the sheriff chooses professional pride over federal partnership is another day the suspects have to disappear. It is a level of stubbornness that is frankly hard to wrap your head around when a life is on the line. 70 federal agents are being treated as spectators instead of the solution. The retribution profiling. The narrative of a random snatch and grab has been completely dismantled by legendary FBI profiler Dr. Ann Burgess. She's looking at the scene through a much darker lens, suggesting that the blood patterns left on the Guthrie porch aren't just the result of a struggle, they are a message. Burgess argues that this wasn't a standard kidnapping for profit. It was a targeted act of retribution designed to wound the family as much as the victim. When you look at the sensory blackout tactics, taking her hearing aids and glasses, and combine that with the specific way the scene was left, it points to a suspect who wanted to exert total control and humiliation. This wasn't about $1 million ransom. It was about settling a score with someone in Nancy's orbit. If this is a retribution case, it changes the entire profile of the suspect from a wandering predator to someone with a deeply personal, long-simmering grudge. The blood on that porch acts as a forensic signature of rage, proving that the person who took Nancy didn't just want her gone, they wanted the people she left behind to watch her suffer through the headlines. This wasn't a crime for money as much as it was a cold-blooded act of revenge. Ghosts of the 2024 election. The timing of this case could not be any worse for the political health of Pima County, as the ghost of the 2024 election is now haunting the search for Nancy. While the FBI is trying to trace digital handshakes, Sheriff Nanos is bogged down by a massive workplace harassment complaint filed by a former sergeant who happened to be his political rival. This isn't just a background HR issue. It is a total resource drain during the most critical investigation of his career. When a leader is spending their days meeting with lawyers and defending their professional conduct against retribution claims, they aren't in the command center focused on an 84-year-old kidnapping victim. The distraction is palpable. It creates a vacuum of leadership where the rank-and-file deputies are left without a clear, singular direction because the man at the top is fighting a multi-front war for his own badge. It's hard to believe that politics could take a front seat while a woman is missing, but in this department, the friction from the last election has become a wall that the investigation simply can't climb over. Nancy deserves a sheriff who is 100% focused on her, not one distracted by a legal grudge match. The sheriff is fighting for his job while Nancy is fighting for her life. The contradiction. The lack of a unified message from the sheriff's office has created a playground for hoaxes, most notably the bizarre Mexico letters recently sent to TMZ. These letters claim Nancy has been moved to Sonora, but because the local authorities haven't established a credible, transparent flow of information, these claims are being treated with more weight than they deserve. It forces the family to ride an emotional roller coaster every time a tabloid publishes a new anonymous tip. If the department had a unified professional bridge with the federal agents, these Sonora claims would be handled behind closed doors rather than becoming a public spectacle that distracts from the actual forensic evidence. By letting these hoaxes run wild, the department is effectively giving the real kidnappers a smokescreen to hide behind. When the police don't speak with one voice, the rumors are bound to lead. Unity red flag finality. The most chilling sign that this investigation has reached a breaking point was Savannah's recent return to The Today Show. In the early days, we saw a united front, but that unity is officially dead. When the family of a victim stops appearing alongside the sheriff and starts making their own separate pleas to the public, it's a unity red flag that the FBI and the family have lost faith in local leadership. The family is taking their message directly to the world, essentially bypassing the department that was supposed to protect them. This separation is the final proof that the relationship between the Guthrie family and the Pima County Sheriff's Office has fundamentally collapsed. The digital trap is set, and the FBI knows who they are looking for, but the people that Nancy trusted to bring her home are no longer even standing on the same stage. With the Board of Supervisors breathing down the sheriff's neck, do you think the search for Nancy Guthrie has become a secondary priority to a massive battle for political survival?